Anyway, I'm Hayden McCall, and hopefully you have all dialed in and have got those numbers sorted out. But if you need to dial in, then those are them there. Just chat to me if required. I'm Hayden McCall, and I run iStart Technology and Business. I'm based down in Auckland. We work across the Australia and New Zealand region, and I host these webinars and work with ERP vendors across the region. Sorry, let me just flick through that. So today we're talking about US manufacturing, the US manufacturing market, and we're welcoming as our guest today, John Schlemmer. John's been knocking around the US ERP software market for about 30 years. So he has been doing pretty much everything there is to be done within manufacturing software suites, and has been working with Acumatica and has built the manufacturing suite that we're looking at today, which is JAMS. John works for a company called Jazz. He can go take you through the JAM and the Jazz later on in a demo of the solution. Firstly, though, he will present a oversight of what's going on in the US manufacturing market. He talks about Industry 4.0, data and cloud and mobile and all those good things that are going on. Just very quickly, well, probably a few people still joining as well. No need for note taking today. There will be a recording, and we'll send that out to everyone. Will be about 20 minutes of presentation from John, and then about 20 minutes of demo, and we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A. So please engage with those questions. We'll address those, and if we don't address them in the session, we'll come back to you directly. Okay, so without further ado, John, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself, Hayden?
Yeah, very well, very well. Now, so let me just flick across to you, and we'll hand you, if you want to just grab controls from that end and fire up your presentation, John.
Pick the right screen here.
I'll just add that John's joining us today from Ohio, where I just looked up, and it's 11 p.m. in the evening. So thank you very much for taking your evening out, John.
It's not a problem. It's still early. But good afternoon, everybody. As Hayden said, my name's John Schlemmer. I'm actually the COO of JOS Systems, and we actually don't just do US-based. We're a global company. We've been doing business, and historically, from my background, I've been doing business all over the world for probably 20 years in the manufacturing software industry. So one of the things that I always like to talk about, especially right now, is not so much the software itself, although we will show that, but it's what's going on in the world as far as things that are going on in manufacturing. And so one of the things, can I hide this thing? Yeah, there we go. It's in my way. One of the things, you know, the way that people are doing business is constantly changing. And the people that adapt to that are going to end up having a competitive advantage. And so if I heard an analyst talk the other day, and one of his comments resonated with me where he said, nostalgia is not a strategy. So basically what he was talking about was some of the things that are going on in the world and how fast the technology is moving, that if you sit back and wait, you're not going to survive in the competitive world. Now, some of the big changes that are taking place, you know, some of you may understand what Industry 4.0 is. I'll kind of explain it a little bit, but software in the cloud is huge right now worldwide, you know, which is including ERP. I've seen some statistics here in the last couple of weeks that like HR and CRM have been the market leaders, but they're kind of not really one-off applications, but they're not a complete ERP system. So from that perspective, the view from analysts, Acumatica, and MYOB is that the market's going to grow somewhere in the neighborhood of from 20% to 40% just in this year alone, this year in 2018. Industry 4.0 is really just a collaboration with the supply chain. It includes things like the internet, Internet of Things. It includes things like data analytics and business automation. It includes things like or business intelligence, and then automation as well. Mobile devices everywhere is where everybody's going. So just kind of talk about that with software in the cloud. So most of the successful organizations right now are moving to the cloud, and they have greater amount of modules that are providing the functionality across the organization. So it's not just a CRM, it's not just an HR, it's a full suite of products throughout the organization. And this is from one of the analysts that we follow as well. Like, they like to talk about leaders, and the leaders, basically what they're talking about is an end-to-end manufacturing functionality system. So some of the benefits, and this is a company called the Aberdeen Group, so this is not stuff that I made up. This is studies that they've done throughout the world. And I mean, I think you can see for yourself some of the differences in having a SaaS model or a subscription as a service, which is the MYOB Advanced model, versus what it is having it on premise. We'll talk about a few other things as far as security and things of that nature too. But what is Industry 4.0? So just a kind of brief history. The first, if you will, industrial revolution was back at the end of the 18th century, where they had a first mechanical loom, and it was hot. I mean, it was the state of the art. You know, they had mechanical production facilities using water and steam power. They moved on to the late 1800s, which beginning of the 20th century, to the slaughterhouse in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we're in Columbus, so I can personally attest to this because I was there in 1870. But it was the introduction of mass production in the division of labor using electric energy. Moving on into the late 60s, early 70s was really the third industrial revolution, where you had PLC controllers, you had the use of electronics and IT, which further automated the production process. So that's kind of where we were up until just a little bit ago. There was this thing called the fourth industrial revolution, which is really Industry 4.0, which was the basis of purely cyber physical systems. Now, Industry 4.0, some of you may have heard of it, some of you haven't. It's very prevalent in Europe in particular. It's very prevalent in Asia. It could be, I've heard people that have talked about it down in Australia, New Zealand. Believe it or not, it's not as prevalent in the US. But it's more than just a flashy catchphrase at this point in time. It's trends and technologies that reshape the world, and in the next phase of digitization in the manufacturing sector. So it's being driven by four disruptions. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but human-machine interfaces, which is really the Internet of Things, advanced analytics, which gets into data analytics, big data, which is all the business intelligence, and then the digital of physical, which is really the automation side. Now, what's the Internet of Things? A lot of people have read things, a lot of people have heard things, but basically it's just a connectivity in manufacturing, from churning products to delivering services. And what the IoT can help companies do is predictability of that customer demand with real-time visibility of product and service demand signals. So the adoption and challenges, a lot of people you talk to say, what's IoT? And some people understand it, some people say, what is it? The next question is usually, who's using it? So this becomes a little bigger challenge because some people can use it and some people haven't adopted it yet, because there are barriers. So there's learning curves to this. There's some costs, and then the big one is the security, because everybody is worried about security in the internet. Obviously, I'm assuming that you guys all know about the Equifax thing here in the U.S.
Oh yeah.
The big thing with that was, come to find out, they were actually managing their own cloud, and they forgot to do an update, which is why they got hacked. So, with a SaaS provider like MYOB, that's their responsibility to maintain.
It seems every time those stories come to the light, there's some human somewhere that is where the blame lies. They must have a really uncomfortable life from thereafter.
I would venture to say that person is no longer there. But data analytics and business intelligence is a really big thing right now. Dashboards, KPIs, being able to get the data out of the system in a meaningful and easily readable way. So, it's on demand. You can do customized manufacturing, but the advanced analytics is really what's going to, take things further in the everyday manufacturing operations. So one of the interesting stats that we've seen is 42% of all manufacturers say this is their ultimate highest priority, which is a huge number. Some of the benefits to that is it boosts their business operations. There's increased product quality and reliability because they get the information quicker. They can make changes out on the floor, which actually increases the quality. And then the reliability and improving equipment performance is I'm getting feedback from my equipment to where I can actually take proactive approaches to preventive maintenance, and my equipment stays in better shape and doesn't go down. So from an automation standpoint, this is it's huge in Europe, it's huge in Asia, it's parts of Asia. And one of the things that a lot of people are concerned with in the robotics side is employment. And it sparked a huge debate, but it can't be understated or ignored in this market, in the manufacturing market. But what's interesting is just because you invest in robotics doesn't mean you're going to get massive workforce reductions. What we've seen in a lot of automated facilities is they take those workers and repurpose them into different roles where they're much more productive, and where the robots or those kinds of things can help with worker safety. They can help with product quality, and what we've found is it increases labor productivity. And really the ultimate thing is in certain industries, you can't avoid not automating.
I think some of the comment recently is, sure, there's been all the media noise around disaster, all the automation is going to come along and wipe everyone's jobs out. But just the extent to which in the manufacturing sector right now, automation is already there. There are factory floors that have no humans on them. They're back in a control room. Everything is robotic. Everything is automated, or to a large extent. It's the level to which it's going to, continue further. It's already down that pathway. It's already down that extreme.
Correct. I mean, you go out on an automotive line, it's mostly robotic these days, at least in the U.S. One of the other things that I've found interesting over the course of the last year and a half in particular is the person driving the move from on-premise to cloud or SaaS is usually the IT or the CIA or the CIO people, because they basically go, I'm tired of doing backups. I need to actually drive productivity and increase value in the company. And they're the ones that are really pushing for the move to cloud.
Yeah, kind of doesn't quite make sense, does it? It's shooting yourself in the foot in terms of what people think your role might be. But I think that's also a great opportunity, because those are smart guys. They know they can contribute a lot to the organization. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, back to where short on time. So keep
but
on.
One of the other things is the mobile devices everywhere. I mean, this is, before, I told you I was back there in the 1870s, but I was there in the early computer days. And I was telling somebody the other day, they're a millennial, and I said, my first system that I actually was involved with had a 9-inch widescreen monitor, and it was just super state of the art because it had a 5 meg removable disk pack. And of course the person that I'm talking to looks at me and they have no concept as to what I'm talking about, because their phone is about 1,000 times bigger and more performance than what that system could do. But mobile is really driving a big revolution in manufacturing. It basically forces these manufacturers, they need to go to mobile to compete with their prospects and their customers, which allows them to deliver better value in less time than before. So we have customers that are generating quotes for build to order products. So we have a product configurator that you can actually go through, pick and choose features and options based on hierarchy. It can do dimensional capabilities, and you can actually generate a quote. So salesperson's out with a customer, they can actually build this, and the prospect or the customer signs off on it, and all of a sudden it becomes an order back in the manufacturing facility. So it also improves, the supplier traceability and quality. The whole thing, you can see the picture on the right. We've got a person, and they actually have populated videos within their system, so their production staff can actually take a tablet and they actually bring up this video, and it actually shows them exactly how to make that part that they're supposed to be making on that operation. So there's a lot of capabilities. I heard John Roskill, who's the CEO of Acumatica, last week speak, and one of his big things is the multi-cloud. So it's not just, within MYOB, it's the connected ecosystem, with people that like Adobe or DocuSign or other people that can actually connect into that cloud as well. So basically, in summary, these are kind of the trends that we've seen. Obviously, software in the cloud is huge right now. It's gaining momentum. The manufacturing sector historically, at least back in the 60s and 70s, were like on the bleeding edge. They had to have it for MRP, for capacity, things of that nature. They've actually been a little reticent, or laggards, if you will, in the cloud technology. But here over the past year, it's really started to move. And most of the people that I talk to worldwide, the only reason that they don't want to go cloud is because they have some type of poor internet connection, and that's really it. The Industry 4.0 is here. You may not understand what Industry 4.0, but MYOB has been doing it since their inception with MYOB Advanced, because they have the data analytics and the business intelligence. They've got the cloud. They have the mobile devices anywhere. They also have the capability through the APIs to tie things in from automation and via the Internet of Things. I was in Boston last week at an analyst show, and a company called Gartner Group, which is a very, very large analyst group that looks at all kinds of technology. One of the guys said they see a lot of companies that focus on one or more of these, but it's when they do it all is when things become really interesting. And we actually have a couple companies that are really taking advantage of this whole thing, and their business is quadrupled. I'd love to take credit for that, but these guys actually know what they're doing too. But we actually enable them to grow in that particular sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's the kind of industrial, all those electrical automation engineering guys, the Siemens and industrial automation guys, bringing much more of a data and software flow focus into what they're doing.
Correct.
Turning on massive capability. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on some of this stuff, because I know I definitely want to show you how the product works a little bit. But just a little bit about us. We've been in business since 1999. We released our first product in 2001 on the Microsoft Dynamics platform. We got involved with Acumatica back in 2011, and actually wrote our first release in about 10 months. We actually just signed an agreement with Acumatica. It was announced 2 weeks ago that we've actually OEM'd our product to Acumatica, not with MYOB Advanced. That's totally separate, but just with Acumatica worldwide. So we're in the markets that they sell in. So we're really excited about that. It moves our relationship much closer with them. Their worldwide support center is 12 minutes from mine. So it's a great. It's not a merger per se, but it's a great relationship. We introduced. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
I guess to just state it, the bleeding obvious, but MYOB Advanced is Acumatica in this region. There's a partnership with MYOB. I'm sure you're going to go on and say that, but just for anyone in the audience that's kind of catching up with the Acumatica angle, it explains that aspect.
Right. Yeah, and that's partly the whole thing with us being able to run on MYOB Advanced. So MYOB Advanced is really a private label of Acumatica. They actually have localized it. It's got a little different skin color than Acumatica. As you can see, Acumatica is kind of blue, MYOB is kind of purple. But it's been localized from a taxation standpoint, a language standpoint, and we actually released our product on MYOB Advanced a year and a half ago. It was in March, April timeframe of 2016. You can see on the right that we have all the certifications from both Acumatica as well as MYOB. We're an MYOB development partner as well as an advanced certified add-on. We're based in Columbus, as Hayden said. I've currently got 18 employees. Most of those are in the U.S., but I do have a gentleman that does support for both MYOB Advanced and Acumatica in Asia and Australia and New Zealand. He's based in Jakarta. And then I have a gentleman that runs most of the MYOB operations that's based in Sydney. And I always love this slide because Acumatica keeps throwing up these ISV global things where they've got over 100 and some different ISVs now. And I always go, well, that's great, but we were the first one. So we were the very first Acumatica ISV. So we've been with them a long time. At the end of the day, I bet the company on this relationship, and I'd do it again. So just real quick, the markets that we focus on, if you're familiar with discrete markets, this is basically the standard discrete marketplaces that you're going to see people talk about. The flexibility of the product allows us to get into other markets like food and beverage. We have a whole bunch of cosmetics companies right now. So you'll notice that that's not really discrete. I typically talk about the environments that we fit in. So these are all the different environments that we fit in. We're into the make to stock. We can do make to order as well. We can do hybrid. We can do repetitive, but we can also do batch processing. So that's where the food and beverage and the cosmetics kind of comes into play. So this is just a sampling of some of our customers. I always talk about the guy in the upper left because he was our very first customer with Acumatica, and he's in Auckland.
Hey.
He's probably taken, and I don't know that Acumatica likes it, but he's my customer, so we service him both from an Acumatica standpoint as well as a manufacturing standpoint. And he's not a large company. He's probably got 20 to 25 employees now, but he's credited growing his business about 200% by his decision to buy Acumatica and Jams. And he's probably taken the most advantage of the platform and the software of anybody that I've seen worldwide with Acumatica. Which is really cool.
We like to squeeze a lot of functionality out of $1, John, down
exactly.
here.
Yeah. So, if you look at just a couple of these guys, if you look at Devil's Peak, kind of a little in the middle, in the upper left, I mean, they're a brewery. So they're a craft brewer down in South Africa. Canova Robotics is they do high-end robotic arms that they attach to wheelchairs and things of that nature, both on the medical side as well as the commercial side. Dream Master is a company in Thailand that we're doing an implementation with currently right now. And all these guys fit within the product market that I was talking about. And then, you look at Cherry Lake and they're a tree farm, not exactly a manufacturer, but, it works because their work centers are 40 acres large and they stay there for 3 years. So we have smaller companies, and then we have companies like the Royal Group in the middle that's about an 800 million US turnover. Sengents in the kind of the bottom right. They started with us 4 years ago. They were about 25 million US turnover a year. They're on pace to do $1 billion with a B next year. So little fast growth.
Yeah, look, I think from what I can gather within the partner network with MYOB Advanced is certainly making advances in the market down here. So it's a growing segment and a footprint that's only really arrived here. But yeah,
It
lots
is.
of growth going on. So
Yeah.
it's good to
I
see it. I'm
mean,
sure getting into the manufacturing sector is going to open up significant vertical there as well.
absolutely. And then just two others real quick. Yamazaki, which is a smiley sun face, they actually manufacture bread. So, they're a baker. We've also got a baker in the US that bakes things with green butter. I didn't understand that because when they told me that, I said, well, if my butter turns green, I throw it out, but it happened to be cannabis infused. So,
I was going
and
to
then
say, it sounds like
yeah,
California butter.
actually, they're in Seattle.
Yeah.
But Tilray is the largest cannabis producer in the world. So they're out of Nanaimo, British Columbia. They export to Australia, actually, but they're the only North American manufacturing facility, medicinal, that's GMP certified. And basically they credit us with assisting them to get to that point. So just real quick on the MYOB Advanced, this is what I'm going to show you. But for those of you who don't know, the MYOB Advanced Cloud Platform is where all of the you don't need to worry about this. This is what MYOB deals with. So it's the framework. It handles the APIs, the mobile framework, the workflow stuff, the database, and then the application suites were built on top of this framework. So this is where all the financials are, the distribution suites, the CRM, the project accounting functionality. So all this functionality is built off of the framework, and we actually build it the exact same way. There's no difference in how the code's written. It's identical. The integrations are seamless, as you'll see shortly. And then we're also, I'm going the wrong way here. We're also certified, but then there's also many connected complementary solutions. So if you needed a data collection solution as an example, or if you needed a warehouse management solution, there are multiple applications out there that connect into MYOB Advanced. So just a little bit about what I'm going to show you. The MYOB Advanced Manufacturing Suite is comprised of multiple modules. So there's a bill of material module that's multiple level. It's totally integrated with bills and routings combined. We can handle a lot of different things to get down to costing. We can also handle outside processes. From a production standpoint, this is where everything's going to get tracked. So think of the bill of material as engineering. This is how we plan to do it. And production is how we're actually doing it. So we're going to do labor tracking. We can do material tracking. We've got lot serial tracking, cradle to grave. This is where the scheduling occurs. You can do changes within the production side if you have security to do so. And then this is where we've got partners that do barcode integration as well. From an MRP standpoint, this is where it's going to look at all the forecast. It's going to look at all the demand, either coming in from forecast or sales orders. It takes into account safety stock reorder point. It looks at lead time for both purchased and manufactured items. It looks at a couple other things I can't remember right now. And then it looks at the entire supply coming in from purchase orders already out there, existing production orders, runs through its engine, tells you that these are the actions you need to take, or these are the items you need to take action on.
Anything it doesn't do, John?
Sliced bread. But no, it's a standard type MRP type thing. There's a couple things that we're adding to the product over the course of the next 6 months, which is going to round out the entire suite. And I actually will talk about those here in a sec. But we've got an estimating module, so the difference within MYOB Advanced quoting versus our estimating is quoting needs to be in your inventory system. Our estimating module, you can quote a widget and go out and estimate it as simple or as detailed as you like. And at that point in time, once you get the business, then you can create the inventory items, and we'll do that automatically for you. So all of this integrates with the CRM out of MYOB Advanced Customer Management. So it integrates with the opportunities, it integrates with the sales order side, and you can have full estimate revision control as well. We also have a product configurator. which I kind of mentioned earlier. This is more features and options, so they're preset, and you can go down through and say, this is the feature I want, and then based on that selection, it may include or exclude additional features. So it's also dimensional, so you can do formulas, you can do multipliers. So like in a windows and doors environment, it can multiply the material that you need. Advanced planning scheduling, long story, but how this works is Acumatica just released what they call version 2017 R2, which is when we released our advanced planning and scheduling module. The way that things get released within MYOB Advanced, that will be available in early part of 2018. So that's kind of why I got an asterisk on that, because it is available, but it's not going to be available until early 2018 with MYOB Advanced. We're also, I kind of mentioned, we're doing a lot of things in the next 6 months. We're also doing a project manufacturing piece to where this integrates with project accounting. You can create a production order directly from a task. You can go out and build that, and then you can put it right back on the project and expense it. So think of it as more job costing, if you will. And then we're also going to have MRP for projects and things of that nature. We're also creating an engineering change control. We handle revisions today, but this is going to be much more robust and take advantage of approval levels for engineering requests, and then you can go out and do the change order, get that approved, then do a change notice, and it automatically updates all the revisions. There is a CAD integration, so if you have SolidWorks, Inventor, things of that, that's usually about 85% of the market. There is a CAD integration that's already been done by a third party down in Cincinnati, actually, and we have multiple customers with that running as well. So that's kind of my little speech.
Okay, if I can just interrupt there for a moment, John. So today, you would have picked up in the pre-event comms, just talking to the audience here. Sponsors from Australian side and attendees from the Australian side looked after by Anycom as co-sponsor today. Anycom based down in Melbourne, and on the New Zealand side, Brunton is the partner that's involved. New Zealand audience, Brunton is the partner. Both of those guys are plugged into MYOB and the MYOB Advanced Partner Network and certifications, and increasingly any manufacturing conversation is with John in the pictures. So just background in terms of some localization of those things. Carry on, John.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, they're great partners. I've been to both their offices. I've been to the MYOB Partner Conference the last 2 years. We were down in Barossa Valley last year, and I actually stayed down in Australia and New Zealand for about a month. And traveled around and met with all the VARs and in a lot of different cities, and ended up in Auckland for about a week. Got scared to death because some guy jumped off the tower thing downtown, and I didn't know about it. But anyhow, from a software standpoint, this is just MYOB Advanced. It's the main screen that you come in, and then you have a variety of different things.
Hang on, we have got your.
I gotta share a different screen now.
Yeah, you probably do need to share a different screen. Otherwise, it's going to be very one-sided.
Yeah, it would be a very one-sided. Let's see here. How about this one? Let's see what this one looks like.
That looks like a bit more of an application.
A little better? Okay.
I'd be in the corner too.
Got it. So these are the suites that are broken down. MYOB is sold by user, so it's very affordable. You can mix and match different roles and things of that nature. But the way that things are broken down is you have organization, which is where the customer management piece is, finance, and then as I change, if I click on these, I may be logged out. Okay, so let me log back in. And all right, let's try this again. And just so everybody knows, I'm actually running this out of Sydney. So this is running off of MYOB's AWS site down in Sydney. So it's going, so you'll be able to tell, and with Zoom, it'll slow down even more. But this is going all the way from Columbus. Well, it's actually going to Columbus, down to Sydney, back to Columbus, and then through Zoom. So, but within the customer management side, just as an example, you can come in here and say, this is the my opportunity as a salesperson. I can create an estimate. I can have different things here. I can have different products that I'm going to do, and once I win the business, then I can do things like create a sales order directly. So it's totally integrated within that. If I select things like finance, this is where GLARAP, fixed assets is going to be. Distribution is going to be more of an inventory, sales order, and purchasing. And then the manufacturing piece includes the bill of material, production management, MRP, the estimating, and the product configurator that we talked about. So other things that occur in here are, if I actually looked at a specific part, just to show. So if I look at a printed circuit board, just as an example, this is where things are controlled with lot serial class. You can have different units of measure, things of that nature, and flows all the way through the system. And then there's a manufacturing tab that allows you to have different functions. So you can have a default bill of material, you can have a different planning bill of material, you can have a configuration, and then you can have different quantities and rules. So just as an example, if I had set this to 10 and I had demand for 8, we're going to recommend that you make 10. If I have demand for 15, we'll say go ahead and make 15 because you've satisfied the minimum. The lot size, the difference in this is where we get into a lot of the batch processing. So the same example, so if I have demand for 8, we're going to recommend you make 10. And if I have demand for 15, we're going to recommend you make 20 because you do them in lots of 10 or batches of 10. From a sales order standpoint, there's a couple things that you can do with this. You can, let's see here. Let me find one. This is one I think I was working with. Okay, so a couple things you can do here. You'll notice I have 2 of the same part, and then I've got this laptop that's configured. So I've got quantity of 1 here, quantity of 10. I may have price breaks set up within this. The product configurator will actually roll the price. And then if I kind of scroll over just a little bit, you'll notice that I have production orders already set up for this. And to do this is I simply come in and select the production order, and then I can go ahead and click this box and it'll create that production order for me. In the case of the configured item, there's a configure button. And in this particular case, I went out and I configured this laptop. So you can have different attributes. So if I had multiple colors, I could select one. But my options in this particular case, these were all my options. So I only had 2. I had a 2.6 and a 5.2. And then my other option here was I had a 4 gig and an 8 gig of memory. And then my other options here were on disk space. So these are the options that I've chosen. And then when I look at my production order, just as an example, so anywhere you see the purple, it's going to hyperlink. So this is the item. And if I look at what that bill of material looks like, it's only going to have the options that I selected. So in this case, you'll notice down at the bottom, this is the 2.6, the 8 gig, and the 1 terabyte. And that's all that's on that particular custom bill of material, configured bill of material. So then now I understand this is what I need to build, and it's not what do I need to build. So same thing, just as an example, this one's not a configured item, but you'll notice that I've got, I'm going to build one of these. The references basically tie this back to that sales order number and that line number. So you have a lot of flexibility within this. The couple other things from a manufacturing standpoint, and this is throughout the system. Actually, I usually just talk about this in the manufacturing side. But anywhere that you see files and notes, so this is overall for this particular bill of material. But I could add a file, I could add a note. Anywhere you see the paper clip or the little note card, you can add files and notes as well. So the system comes with a full document management system that I can actually print out. So if I want more detailed, PDF type, production order instructions, I can go ahead and attach these and print these out as a job paperwork. And you can have as many as you like. I mean, it's not limited to one, so I could upload multiples. And then you could have revisions within those as well. So just, kind of quick from a bill of material standpoint, this is the routing piece. So I mentioned we combine our bills of material with our routings. And, so this is the first operation. It's going to take 1 hour to set up. I can run 10 pieces per hour. I could do hours per piece as well, or I could do machine time. And then depending on whether or not you use a standard labor rate, so off the work center in this particular case, I'm going to use $20. And if I click this box, I'm going to use that $20 for my labor rate. If I leave it alone, what I'm going to do is actually record direct labor by employee by production order. Now down at the bottom, you'll see 4 tabs. These are each associated with each operation. So these are 2 materials that I need. If you'll notice, if I click on this one, I don't have any materials down here. That's because I'm not introducing any materials at that particular operation. So these are all coming out of inventory. So you can actually just, it's a very simple process. You go in, you can click, you can do searches, and then bring it in. It'll bring in the description. You can put in the quantity required. You'll see the decimal. In this case, it's set up to go 4 to the right and 6 on cost, it looks like. We can go 6 to the right on both, or you can mix and match. It does have the capability of unit of measure conversions and different unit of measures. So in this particular case, I've got pounds, ounces, and pieces that I can do on this particular one. The unit cost is coming in based on how you've set up your inventory and via cost roll. And then you can backflush the material, or you can issue it. Steps is basically just free-form text that you can actually put in, and it'll print out with the traveler. This is actually where this guy has put in the videos. So as people go in, they go to steps, they click the video and play it. You can also cost tools. So I could actually come in and say, I need this mold, and I'm going to charge a quarter. And it's worth a total of $1,000, and then we'll track the consumed cost and total number of uses, and everything will go back to GL eventually.
So yeah, John, just, I guess trying a lot to take in, but just one thing on search. I see you've got contextual searching within inventory, looking for a particular item, which is fantastic. But I assume you can search across the whole documentation, everything, the whole system as well.
Yeah, you can actually come in here and look at things. I don't know. We'll pick one. You can look at all entities. You can look in help. You can look at all files. So if I actually came in and said all entities, it's going to find anything that I want that was in ABC, and then I can actually just go directly to that just by clicking. So it's pretty powerful. Think of it as kind of like Google.
Yeah. Yeah, but contextual as well. So you don't have to be inundated with every single reference at all. You're looking specifically within a the context of what you find.
Exactly.
Yep.
So there's a lot that we could get into and show. I mean, I could do this for 3 or 4 hours, but I know we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the context of this, you're kind of in the distribution area, looking at inventory and it's that configuration that you've got set up within there. That's been driven from the manufacturing module. So you've set up the individual materials and all of the rules that are associated with the materials within manufacturing, or is Jams kind of integrated all over the place, and I mean, do you do it all kind of in Jams and then release it out to the rest of the application? How does it
No,
work? Like,
no.
what's your key configuration steps, I guess, is the bigger question.
It's actually totally integrated with MYOB Advanced. So as an example, you've been watching this and it's for the first time for you, Hayden. So you tell me which screen we developed and which screen MYOB developed.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's seamless. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a, if you remember my PowerPoint, which had the framework on the bottom, there's a piece called the extensibility framework that we utilize that does the entire integration. It's real time. So if I actually came in and added an inventory item, just as an example, we'll see if I've done this before or somebody has. So if I came in and actually added a test, we'll make it 20, so I don't think anybody's done that. So and I'll just do this fairly quick. And then I can actually just choose an item class and it'll automatically populate the rest of the stuff for me. And then I'm going to make this a manufactured item just real quick. And when I save this, then if I come over here into the manufacturing side and I look at a bill of material and I say I want to add a new part and I want to see test 20, I can just start typing test. And you'll notice I got a whole bunch of them, but here's the one I just added.
Yeah.
So it's totally integrated. It's seamless. It's a single database. It's not an add-on. It's not a bolt-on. It's with inside the entire framework.
I have to say the response time is pretty impressive too. It certainly is at this end. Hopefully everyone else is having the same experience, but that's like I'm doing it in front of me.
Yeah. And like I said, we're going, 20,000 miles back and forth. So.
Lots of complaints always, but actually it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, so folks, we're into the last sort of 10 minutes, and I'm sure there's some manufacturing people in the audience that can have some specific pointy questions for John. So just please fire away. To be honest, and I want to hear your feedback on this. This is the first event we've run using the Zoom webinar. We've done obviously a lot of practices and reasonably comfortable with it. But please, in the end, and I'll do it. There's an exit survey that you'll fill out as you leave. But do give us feedback in terms of the platform that we're presenting on here today as well. But there's a Q&A button. If you just open it up on your panel, Q&A, just fire away with any questions that you've got. Just feel free to pop those in there, and I'll post them to John while we've got him here live and at the ready to answer any curly ones. So I guess I've got a question, and maybe it goes back into the early part of your presentation as opposed to being product specific, John. But you talked about cyber physical as kind of the industry 4.0 and it's not a term I've heard before. All the Internet of Things and so on I've heard of, but cyber physical is a bit of a new one. And I guess most people are grappling with all the line items of data and analytics, the Internet of Things, sensors and automation. Every manufacturer is trying to grapple with all of those, and it's big and it's hairy and it's hard to get your head around. Cyber seems to nut it all together. I guess what the question is: what are you seeing out there in the manufacturing sector that people are, chopping this up into bits that they can digest? What are the first series of things that they tend to focus their attention on that really gets the best return on investment for their efforts?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about my guy in Auckland a lot, and I think he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met, in how he runs his company, and you've seen a whole bunch of data that I've thrown at you. And, we can report on that. You can set up all these kinds of things, with these dashboards and all this kind of stuff from a data analytics standpoint. You can drill down into it, and wow, isn't it cool? And it is. But he basically said, my company can't handle all of this. And so he basically went out and he said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, do the basics. And we're really going to understand what a bill of material looks like. We're really going to understand how the financial stuff works. We're going to understand how the distribution piece works, and we're just going to put in the basics. And, he goes, otherwise my company's going to choke. And, so he went ahead and he did that. And then he started adding things once a month. So he had 1 or 2 new features a month. And, time went by, and all of a sudden they're running literally everything. He was in my office a little over a year ago here in Columbus, and he pulls out his cell phone and he goes, let me show you about my machines in Auckland. This one's running at 99%. And I mean, he's got it on his phone. So he literally runs his business from his cell phone right now. So he's got, Power BI, that he's created a whole bunch of KPIs and analytics from it. And it took him a couple years to get there, but, nobody knows the system better than he does. And, we've had other people that have tried to slam things in. We've done it, but, it's painful. And I think he took the right approach. Now the second thing that so he got all that stuff done. I'm kind of getting around to answering your question. and he's done some of the internet of things, with some of the sensors and things that he can monitor his equipment. So when we released the estimating module about a year ago, he made a couple suggestions that we changed, which made sense. And he tells me that he's got this out on his customer portal. And I said, what? He's got estimating out on his customer portal. His customers are literally creating their own estimates on a customer portal that he can come in the morning and review, make changes. So instead of him creating the entire estimate back and forth on the phone, his customers are actually creating it.
Yes.
So he's just, what he needs to run his business, he's doing. So that's been my experience.
Small incremental steps. Don't overload your staff. Don't try and bite off the whole cherry. Just take it one nibble at a time, and you get there in the end. Just keep on going.
Exactly.
I guess ongoing improvement innovations. Yeah.
Yeah.
A very quiet bunch out there today, folks. So I'm sure there's some questions that are in the audience while we've got John here with his depth of knowledge. We've also got Steve. Steve, I apologise. I didn't ask you how to say your last name, but I'm going to go with Kugaias. Steve's with Inicom in Melbourne, and he'll be in touch with you afterwards, so you can have a one-on-one chat with him if there's anything specific. He's will look after the Australian, as I said, side of things, and then we've got Kurt Brunton is on standby and will follow up on the New Zealand side from the Brunton end. Okay, so I guess something that you talked about there with and highlighted, and I thought you were going to go here, was around the data analytics, with 42% of manufacturers kind of focused in on doing and implementing solutions within that space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that is something that you would be doing directly within the application here, or do you think that's something that needs to be a separate, reporting and analytics capability that's and how does Advanced approach that challenge?
I think it depends. That's one of the great answers of all time, right? The capabilities within MYOB Advanced, you have the capabilities to do a lot of the analytics within here with what they call generic inquiries and things of that nature. There is multiple products that already attach into MYOB Advanced that do the analytics, so they're business intelligent products like Solver and things of that nature. There's Microsoft Power BI that already is available within Microsoft, within MYOB Advanced, because MYOB Advanced allows you to expose the data via what's called OData, which then can be read into Microsoft Power BI, and then you can slice and dice it. It's just basically a data warehouse at that particular point. So I think it just depends on the company, and depending on what they're looking to do with that capability. The next release of MYOB Advanced is going to have pivot tables embedded, which is pretty slick little feature. You can export a lot of things to Excel right now. but it's going to have embedded pivot tables already in it to where you can just go ahead and put them in here on a dashboard. So I think it just depends on the company and and what they feel comfortable with and how they want to run their business.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that's what companies like Intercom and Brunton are there for, to assist, because they have a lot of experience and a lot of exposure to that technology as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned a couple of times within the product ecosystem, you've got these plugins and third-party solutions and ISVs, and I guess you're a classic example that's perhaps taken that to its full extreme of embedding totally within the product. And for MYOB Advanced and people in this region, I guess we're looking to MYOB Advanced in that ecosystem. But how does it work in terms of looking to the Acumatica ecosystem? Is that something that they can pick off the shelf and plug into Advanced, or does that need to be something they wait for through the release process?
No, it's not necessarily the release process. It just depends on whether the Acumatica ecosystem is going to get involved with the MYOB ecosystem. So they are separate. MYOB has, as you remember on the slides, we're a certified partner with MYOB. We're also a certified partner with Acumatica. So they are different. They do have their own certification programs that you need to go through from an ISV standpoint to make sure that your product is certified with MYOB. I mean, it should be. If you're within Acumatica, you should be able to do the same thing with MYOB. But it is a little bit different because it's only a SaaS model. It's multi-tenant. They continue to stay current with features and builds and things of that nature. So it is a little bit different. Then you have the whole support concept. So there's a couple ISVs within the Acumatica ecosystem that have tried. They didn't put people on the ground, which I think is critical in being able to support MYOB in particular. You can't do that from Columbus, Ohio. I mean, we back up our frontline guys, but if we're sitting here going, we're going to support all these customers direct from Columbus, Ohio, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we got to have local people.
Yeah, so that partner network kicks into play, and hence the Intercoms and Bruntons are involved in getting your message out to the audience today. That brings us pretty much to the top of the hour, folks. Thanks very much, John, for your contribution and depth of insights. It's good to have someone who knows their way around a demo product, obviously extremely well. So it's hard to take it in when you see it for the first time, but it's that seamlessness is certainly something that I'll be left with as an impression of the solution. Okay, so let me just grab back the screen and I will just go through a bit of a closing slide or two if I can pick the right one this time. That's it there. Okay, and from the beginning, where was I? Through all of that. That's probably the right one anyway. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that there is an exit survey that you'll get popped up and you'll get directed. Your browser will open up a separate session. Really appreciate your feedback in there, both on the content with your expectations coming in and what we've covered off today. But as I say, also just in terms of the Zoom platform and how your experience was with that. We're kind of in the assessment process with working with that as well. So good to hear your feedback on that front. So to our sponsors today, thanks very much for their contribution. They made it possible. So they deserve the mention. Intercom based in Melbourne, capabilities across ERP warehousing, manufacturing, and several different ERP solutions. Steve Kugayas, apologies again, Steve. We'll follow up with you after the event. Based on your registration details, he'll be in touch with the Australian side. And then for New Zealand, we've got the guys at Brunton, is the other co-sponsor. They're based in Auckland here, and they have a growing practice coming out of sort of business accounting, smaller business accounting, but they've got a number of advanced projects underway and on the go right at the moment. So they're sort of moving up the stack, and Kurt Brunton, the very same, will be in touch. So contact details on the screen there. Get in touch with them. As I say, this is all being recorded, and a link will be sent out to you tomorrow, so you can dive through these notes and refresh yourselves on what was said as you go. That's pretty much closed from me. Thanks very much for attending, people. Thank you again to you, John. I'll wrap things up there.